just give us a little bit more sort of detail about what the six-stage model is, how we can implement it on a day-to-day basis.
So it, constantly, I'm kind of progressing and building on the model and building on the whole system. And within the book, I talk about your kind of preventative, your proactive management, and your responsive strategies, or your troubleshooting at the top there. And I use the analogy of like the firefighting, where we put more work in at the bottom, the preventative, than using a fire extinguisher. The six-stage target model kind of sits in the middle. It's our proactive management, and it's a bit like a risk assessment process in some ways. That it's a kind of it can either be used as an analytic tool, but it also then feeds into the other stages. So it either feeds into a principle for troubleshooting, or it actually over a period of time builds on the preventative. So the six stages, and I always think of it like a monopoly board. We're constantly going around it. That doesn't mean we have to land on every space, because once I've identified a behavior, I don't need to go back to that every time. Okay. But the six stages then, we identify behaviors, we understand and empathize, we then create a proactive plan, we then recognize escalation, we respond appropriately, and then we learn from all incidences. Okay. And we're going round that cycle. And that can be used as an analytical tool. So let's say I've got a child who is, or an individual, anybody, that we are finding some of their behavior feels challenging, okay, to either some staff or all staff. Then that's where we then put them through this model. So first off, the identifying part is, well, like we said about is it actually behavior that challenge? Is it actually maladaptive behaviors, or is it just the fact that I don't like it and I don't agree with it? And if it falls into the second category, it's a case of, well, why are you picking up? It's the wrong battle to pick. So leave them alone, let them do it. If I've got somebody, or we have to understand based on the individual. So I don't like the fact they swear. Well, they've got Tourette's, so I'm not going to change that. So doesn't even need to be in the cycle. So the identifying is first and foremost part of the behaviors we perceive as challenging. We need to identify those and actually analyze them and go, should I actually be addressing that, or should I be minding my own business? The other part of the identifying is to actually start focusing on the positive, which is one of the principles of the book is, but what skills and abilities have they already got? Because it's so easy to focus on the behaviors that, the deficits, the difficulties, the challenges, the negatives to this person, and completely miss all of the skills and abilities they've already got that we might actually be able to build their self-esteem with and develop, and allow those adaptive skills to actually meet a lot of the needs that they're currently using maladaptive skills for. The understanding and empathizing is then, I know I put both. Understand is to try and be the detective rather than the judge, like doing things like there's what's called ABC charts, which is where we actually analyze and see if we can see patterns in the behavior, and it's a bit of a functional analysis and things like that to kind of understand why this, why now. When we're dealing in the trauma informed approach, sometimes it can be really difficult to like I said, like me raising my voice, let's say shouting a kid down for tea. Well, that's not dangerous. Why does that trigger that response? Because it's not what I did now. It's things that have happened in the past that are actually affecting. So the understanding, empathizing is I may not understand the why, especially in the one incident, but I need to understand the feelings. The feelings are true, even if the reasoning it doesn't make sense to me. And that works for children experiencing trauma, but it also works with elderly or individuals living with dementia, because it may be something from the past, or they're disorientated, so it doesn't, and we don't make sense of it, but they're feeling that in that moment. The feelings are true. I want my mum. Well, your mum's passed away how many years ago, so that's ridiculous. But what are the feelings they've got at that moment? Are they feeling lonely? Are they feeling overwhelmed? Are they in pain? So again, we need to understand the feelings rather than knowing what's the trigger all the time. So that's why I put both in. From there, we can create our plan, and we should always be planning to proactive management, be proactive rather than reactive. Recognizing escalation, I go into a couple of bits. One is recognizing escalation in them, but I also talk in the book about recognizing escalation on ourselves. So there's also an awful lot in that point about kind of the self-care and and this is something I know teachers are terrible for. And I know something you talk about on your podcast an awful lot, as far as like trying to get that self-reflection, if teachers don't have a good level of emotional literacy and emotional awareness and emotional management themselves, why are they expecting they're going to be able to then get any kids to do it? So that's a big part of that particular element of the journey. Responding appropriately, depending where the kid is on their escalation cycle. But the big thing, I think, is that learning process. When you're training to be a teacher, you have the learning cycle. As far as every lesson, you then reflect on it and go, how did that work? What worked well? But we don't do that around behavior or the reactions. Like as a parent, you admitted that, like, sometimes you'll react to what that kid does, but then that's it, you're done. Whereas what we should be doing is putting ourselves through that model of going, okay, I identified that I lost my temper in that moment. I wonder why that triggered me. What do I need to understand about myself? Okay, they're going to trigger me again that way. So what am I going to do next time? So when we're talking about the 6-stage target model, it's not just for analyzing others. It's also a self-reflective tool we can use for analyzing ourselves. That I need to know what my maladaptive behaviors are and things like that, and go through and recognize it. So it's kind of a two-way process. It can also be used as a more dynamic tool in so much as if I see something I'm thinking that needs managing, first thing, pick my battle. Do I need to pay attention to that? Why do I think it's happening? Create a plan before I go in. Where are they on their escalation cycle? And then respond appropriately and then reflect afterwards. So I kind of refer to it in the book that the first three elements, the identify, understand, and proactive, is where we behave like a scientist or a teacher. The recognizing escalation and responding appropriately is where we behave more like a firefighter. And then we go back to being the teacher or the scientist again, and we go through the journey. So it should be, it can be used dynamically or it can be used analytically. But by keep going through it, overall, that's going to affect the culture of the organization and affect my understanding of that individual. So it, over time, builds my preventative understanding. Hopefully I explained that. Okay. There's a lot to it. It's a big book.
It is, but it is amazing because, like I said to you earlier, it's making me rethink things that I now do as a parent. Like my son used to leave the light on all the time, still does. It's one thing I hate the most, lights left on and cupboard doors left open. And before that would have been a battle. I would have happily gone in and fought with him.
Yeah.
But now I I just look at it and think, does he even know that he's left it on? Is there something he's run down to because he's excited about something? Is there something that's made him forget, for example? He's realised he's got to put something away because I've told him he needs to put his plate away. So it's making me rethink the situation now, and I'll just turn it off and just think, he won't know anyway. So it's not a fight that I have to fight anymore. But then there has been a time where he's turned it off and I've gone, oh, well done, you turned the light off, thank you. And he's gone, what have you said well done for? Looking like, confused.
Yeah.
Because mum doesn't say that normally. So yeah, it's making me rethink my parenting for sure.
Have you ever encountered an adult or child's behaviour that has felt difficult, overwhelming, or challenging? Have you sometimes felt at a loss of what to do, or know that you didn't handle it quite right? People are complex and unpredictable, and their behaviour can be like the weather. We've all made the mistake of looking out the window and feeling safe to wear shorts, but 5 minutes later wishing for an umbrella. What if, like a weatherman, you understood how humidity, temperature and pressure all come together to cause the weather, allowing you to better prepare, predict and respond, and prevent ever having a picnic ruined by a thunderstorm ever again? My book, called Targeting the Positive with Behaviours that Challenge, helps you to become the weatherman of behaviour. It provides you with a toolkit to increase competency, confidence, resilience and empathy, so you feel more assured about how to respond to distressed or dysregulated behaviours in others, including those affected by trauma, mental health, neurodiversity, learning disabilities or dementia. Build better connections, achieve de-escalation and improve outcomes for yourself and those you engage with my celebrated 6-stage target model, a step-by-step process to reduce distress for everyone. Discover my empowering, person-centered guide in Targeting the Positive, written by me, Andy Baker, available from online bookstores worldwide. Find a link in the description and order today.